In my time here in North Carolina, the last week or 10 days have been filled with, I would leave here in the morning and head over to Edenton, which is about 8 miles, I think, south of here. As I've mentioned before, my directions are all screwy. I think that's south, but I'm not sure. And they have a coffee shop over there that's just, you know, it's great down-home coffee with some good people and a great place to spend a few hours, which I have very frequently. Well, this morning I headed on over there, and I couldn't get onto the internet for some reason. I couldn't. It said I was connected, but it wasn't there, so I left early, and I decided to visit a place called the Barker House. Now, Edenton is a very historical place. It was, I think it was founded in 1670 or 1650, you know, in the mid-17th century sometime. And the people who own this place where I'm staying, Ben and Jackie Hobbs, they told me about the first Tea Party. And it wasn't the Boston Tea Party, but it happened in Edenton back in 1774. So I thought, well, I'm going to check this out. Now, I didn't get much video, but I did get a number of pictures, and here's a little bit of that. I wasn't intending on visiting the house when I headed on over to Edenton this morning, but I thought, I'm going to do this because I like history. Just like the Confederate memorial there preceding the house. Knew nothing about it. The Barker history, I knew nothing about it. The Tea Party that she started, knew nothing about it. But this is the house, a Colonial-era house, I think built in 1782, and has an immense, wonderful view of the bay from windows going all the way around this living room here. And I thought, man, what a great way to wake up in the morning. Just wake up, have your coffee, walk right into the water. Well, here I am at the Barker House in Edenton, North Carolina, and it is quite a sight. Right outside the door. What a sight to wake up to every morning. You know, I never had a house with a swimming pool, but it seems like it's all the rage today. I think this kind of beats it. You know, and can you imagine having this as your swimming pool that you wake up to every day? I love history. I mean, if I could return to school, return to college, I would probably major in history because there's just, you know, everybody has their own fortes and what they like and what they can do well. Not that I can do history well, but I love learning it because it never stops. There's always something to learn. And it's so with the Edenton Tea Party. I wanted to read from the, well, let me first say that Penelope Barker is the one who organized this Tea Party in Edenton. And she also knew there were 4 individuals in Edenton that she knew, and 4 significant individuals. From my understanding, I might get this wrong, but one was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, one was a signer of the at the Constitutional Convention, there was a Supreme Court judge, and I think there's also a U.S. Senator, who were all living in Edenton and all people whom she knew. Well, she organized a group of ladies back in 1774 for this first Tea Party that was before the Boston Tea Party, and I wanted to read a little bit of the information that I was given when I visited the Barker House here. It says women and their relatives were among the 51 women who took part in the Edenton Tea Party organized by Mrs. Penelope Barker at the home of Mrs. Elizabeth King on October 25th, 1774. From the Morning Chronicle and London Advertiser, January 16th, 1775, comes the following contemporary account of the Edenton Tea Party and the only authentic list of signers of the resolutions. Quote, extract of a letter from North Carolina, October 27th. The provincial deputies of North Carolina have resolved not to drink any more tea, nor wear any more British cloth, and many ladies of the province have determined to give a memorial proof of their patriotism, and have accordingly entered into the following honorable and spirited association. This is the agreement they were making. I send it to you to shew your fair countrywomen how zealously and faithfully American ladies follow the laudable example of their husbands, and what opposition your ministers may expect to receive from a people thus firmly united against them." Unquote. That was from Edenton, North Carolina, October 25th, 1774. What the resolution they signed said was this, quote, "As we cannot be indifferent on any occasion that appears nearly to affect the peace and happiness of our country, and as it has thought necessary for the public good to enter into several particular resolves by meeting of members deputed from the whole province, it is a duty which we owe not only to our near and dear connections which have concurred in them, but to ourselves who are essentially interested in their welfare, to do everything as far as lies in our power to testify our sincere adherence to the same, and we do therefore accordingly subscribe to this paper as a witness of our fixed intention and solemn determination to do so." And then it gives a list of the 51 ladies. Basically saying, okay, you're going to keep raising the taxes on tea and all these goods, we're not going to buy them. And the lady that was talking to me at the Barker House today, she was saying something about they found some other plant I had never heard of to substitute, that they made as a substitute for tea. And I'm like, why can't we have people like that today? You know, we accept so many things with, you know, there's no fight like this against the nonsense and against the foolishness of the people who are supposed to be in charge today. You know, basically King George has taken up throne in D.C. and I can't call D.C. Washington D.C. because if you know anything about George Washington, and then you take what you know about George Washington and his character and you juxtapose it against the character of Washington D.C. I mean, he would demand the place that his name be taken off of it, because it's not an honor to have one's name associated with a city that is doing what they're doing. So, anyway, if you're ever in Edenton, North Carolina, check it out. It's fabulous to think that there are. And I bought this book, 10 Tea Parties. The Tea Party in Edenton wasn't the only one. There were others that preceded the Boston Tea Party. People were fighting for their rights, and this just, I get jazzed about this. I don't know why. It'd be nice to be in a position where you could do something, but I'm eager to read this book. 10 Tea Parties, Patriotic Protests That History Forgot by Joseph Cummins. So I'm eager to read this. Cost me more than I wanted to spend, but I think it'll be well worth the money. So anyway, now I'm going to send you back into the interior of the house, and there was a drawing that when the ladies in Edenton did this, the people, they're British politicians I'm taking, the men over there started making fun of them, and apparently they dressed up like women, and they pretended to be the Edenton Tea Party ladies, and they were, and then there was this horribly crude drawing that appeared in British print, and they had a copy of it there at the Barker House, and that's what's coming up next. It amazes me how people in power will always try to belittle other people who are trying to stand up for their rights, and this is the case in this situation as well. The British politicians were making fun of the Edenton ladies and didn't think that their resolution had any weight. Well, who knows? It might have impacted what happened in Boston. Well, after I left the Barker House, I went on a search for a place the curator, the lady I talked to, said was where the original Tea Party House was. I didn't find it, but I did come across a memorial to someone else, a man by the name of Joseph Hughes. He was a resident of Edenton. He wasn't born in Edenton, but he was a resident, and he had quite quite a life of contribution to the American cause. Probably many people don't know the name Joseph Hughes. I probably have come across it in my readings, but I couldn't have identified him. But he was a man who lived in Edenton back during the colonial days, and he was one of the delegates who signed the Declaration of Independence. And this memorial here is to him. And I will try to, it's something worthy of note. To the memory of Joseph Hughes, April 28th, 1730, November 10th, 1779, modestly but without stint, he gave his labor and his means to the cause of freedom. Vestryman of St. Paul's Parish, Edenton, signer of the Declaration of Independence, delegate from North Carolina to the Continental Congress, secretary of the Naval Committee, friend and patron of John Paul Jones. Erected by the Congress of the United States, 1932. It makes me wonder if all the delegates who signed the Declaration of Independence, if the places where they lived have done the same. And what a view, with 3 cannons to guard from any encroaching vessels. I'm not sure exactly what the building is in the background there, but I might have to go and take a look. Very interesting, these cannons. Bought in France for North Carolina by Robert Smith and Thomas Benbury, agents for Governor Caswell. Mounted on the spot in 1861. And they even have some ammunition there on the side. 3 cannons facing out into the harbor, into the bay, I guess it is. And across the way, that is the Barker House that I was in earlier. Just outside the Barker House, I found this Civil War memorial to the Edenton Bell Battery. What was the Edenton Bell Battery? Well, it was a combination of men primarily from Chowan, Tyrrell, and Washington counties in North Carolina. And the story goes that they were lacking adequate artillery. Therefore, various institutions of Edenton donated their bells to be melted and cast into 4 bronze cannon in Richmond, Virginia. These cannon were then used in various battles throughout the Civil War, and they were returned and on display here at the Barker House in Edenton, North Carolina. There was one final place I visited before I left Edenton this morning, and it was a library. The first time I saw the library, it looks like just a little, one-room schoolhouse, brick house library. But it was, you walk through the door and it just goes on and on. It's just huge. And when I walked around it today to get pictures, it is quite something. And I'm not sure how big of a town Edenton is. I think I heard somewhere maybe around 5,000 people. They should be very proud of their library. It's quite something. Would you believe me that little building across the street is a library? And a big library? Come on, let me show you. I remember when I first saw this library, I thought, oh, that's a very nice, quaint little town library, 1 or 2 rooms, colonial appearance to it, the Shepherd Pruden Memorial Public Library, something a little different than just the bland old Edenton Public Library that most towns use. But then I walked into it and I thought, this place is huge. There's a side entrance obscured from some trees, and if you go all the way to the back, there is a nice little patio area that would be just ideal for some springtime, summertime book club. I mean, see where you could just have a wonderful time in the sun. And you can really see the length of it if you on the opposite side, where it just goes on and on and on. And this is a little garden area it shares with the historical house, I think it's called the Cuppa House, right next door. This is a little bit of downtown Edenton, North Carolina. One thing I've noticed as I've traveled down this road many times, downtown, it's like it's always busy. This is on a Friday, and I wish I had set this up earlier so I could have given you more sight of the downtown and how it's like there is no vacant spot. There's no vacant place to park. There's no vacant storefront. Somehow, without a Walmart, they have succeeded.